All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Playthrough. This is our news edition. Our plan for these episodes are hopefully once a month we'll do a news recap showing you what's happened in that month. This time we're going to show you what's happened so far in 2019. So we're in February right now, so we'll get January and February kind of covered with that. Joining me, though, is Ken Poole. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good.
Dr. J. Esquire. I have to say the Esquire now, right? That's in your contract.
Required, by law.
Yeah. And then the guy who asked me for blue and M&Ms, which I don't get, is Russ. And then also running the camera is Dr. J's brother, Jankum, over there. Thank you so much. No one can see you, but I appreciate your help right there. I'm Ktdata, and let's just jump into some quick news. And this first one, it's kind of a little bit beefy, but if you're a trading card game fan, you may want to hear a little bit about this, right?
Yeah.
Ken?
So it's just some like a series of announcements that have come out about the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions collectible card game. It's also there's an app implementation on your phone, so you can play it digitally, you can play it physically. You can also scan your cards that you get physically into the digital app, so it's really, really like cross-play, kind of an open platform. It's really cool, like being able to, I want to play this game, but I don't have anyone sitting here, so I'm going to get on my phone and play the actual game with my actual cards, play the same decks and stuff that I already have built. But I've been really loving it. It's great. So they announced a whole bunch of different things like over the course of about a week, a couple weeks back, but they've announced their whole OP plans for the year, which is their organized play plans. They've got their Season 2 kits in stores now, and that's going to be a small foil pack. Inside you will find one card that is going to be like an alt art foil, really nice looking thing, and then another one that is just, you scan it into the app and you're going to get like a card back or a playmat or like an avatar or whatever, just in-game kind of goodies. Then they've got in March, they've got what they're calling the Blood and Glory series, which is a local series that'll have special prizes. It seems to be just a local level championship that'll have it's just going to be like an OP series in local format, and then they're going to add champion points to their OP program, which will be points that as you earn them from playing in official things, you log your wins and losses, you'll get points that you can use for physical and digital prizes for the first time. And they've got 2 sets out now. Their next set, called Savagery, they're going to start doing pre-release events, which they're going to call First Strike events because it's Warhammer and they can't just call it a pre-release. It has to be something more hardcore sounding. But this new set, Savagery, it comes out in April. They're going to add 3 new races and 1 new realm. When you play the game, when you're deck building, there's a lot of synergies between the races, and then there's spells that work with different realms. So they're expanding that and obviously adding to the existing races and the orders. The orders are there's death, destruction, chaos, and order.
So all
the Grand Alliances, rather.
Yeah. So all the things that you hate in life, right?
Yeah. you've got order, which is like the good guys, and then death, destruction, and chaos. real positive stuff. But those are the Grand Alliances. Super brief overview of how you build a deck. You've got 4 champions. You choose one of the Grand Alliances, and everything has to fit into that.
How big are the decks?
So you've got your 4 champions, and then 4 blessings that you unlock throughout the game, and then a 30-card deck. And it's
so that's not too bad to build.
And a deck can have 3 of any named card. You can have 2 of any non-unique of the champions. Each of your blessings is unique.
How do they come? Can you buy like a pre-deck and then the packages?
So right now there's 4 pre-made decks, 1 for each of the Grand Alliances. And then the other thing that they're coming out with in March is called the Warband Collector's Pack, which will have a Death versus Order decks. And so if you're familiar at all with the game Light Seekers.
This is kind of a reskin of it, right?
I never played Light Seekers, so I really couldn't tell you how much of a reskin it is. But I do know that they copped a mechanic from it where your cards turn and they have different abilities in the corner. And
I like that. We played Light Seekers.
Didn't you not like that?
I liked it.
I did not care for Light Seekers personally, but that might be because I played I played a deck that was terrible against the deck that Russ was playing, and I felt like
it's because you hate losing to Russ.
There was no possible way for me to win that particular game, and I was kind of salty already going into it. So
from what I've played of this, and I haven't played a ton. I've really gotten into it over the last month or so. But from what I've played, it has a really good like self-balancing because you can play to any of your 4 champions, which are basically your attack lanes, and different things that you play or different effects, like if you do damage or if you kill one of your opponent's cards, they will turn your champions, which then once your champion turns all the way around, that unlocks your blessing, which will be either a persistent effect that'll help you or one big like giant strike of damage.
So as things get worse for you, you kind of get a little bit of a
not so
bonus.
Much that it's more that it can be swingy without being totally random.
But yeah, like you can't just spam a guy with the same thing over and over.
No, so your deck, like I said, you can only have 3 of a card, and then when you play a card, it's going to the cards also do the little turn thing at the start of your turn, and you can only have 1 unit in each of your lanes or a spell. There's 2 different, like the different champions can either play units or spells, and then there's abilities that you can play on top of that. That's like an instant. But the format of the game, on your turn, you do 2 things. You can play a card, or you can play up to 2 cards, or there's like some cards have a heroic ability. And you can activate that. Or you can draw cards. Like you don't just draw at the end of your turn. You have to spend an action to draw cards. So turns are fast. It's fairly simple. There's not a ton of like insane combos or anything like that. And it's fairly balanced. There's
not a turn 1 kill.
No, there's no way. One more thing with the deck building. The 4 champions that you use, they have a cost and a health value. So your starting health value is going to be 30, and it can go up to 35 based on them, or it can go below 30. So you don't always start at the same health. And the cost of your champions, so your really strong champions with really strong abilities, are going to cost more. And there's a cost cap of like 20, if I remember right, off the top of my head. So there's some really cool limitations for deck building that.
So is that similar to like if you're making a team in Warhammer where you have to balance?
I've never played Warhammer.
Yeah.
So I have no idea.
But like an army number, you have so much you can do. I haven't played it either, but I have some games.
It probably has like a unit limit or whatever, and something is worth like 5 or
but those only apply to your champions.
Okay.
All the cards in it just have to fit into that same order.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other big announcement for this is that they are taking the game to Switch and PC via Steam.
That actually might convince me to play.
I'm excited to be. So the only complaint that I have about the app is deck building on it is a little bit hard because it's on my phone.
Yeah, you're constrained with the space, right?
I'm trying to read the abilities, and you can pull up the card and you can see the whole thing, but then you can't move the card around. So being able to do it on a PC, I think, will be really, really cool. They're also setting it up so like, does the Switch have a camera built into it?
I don't think it does.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know how you'll scan cards with the Switch.
It has an IR scanner, so it might be able to get something out of that.
Well, the way that the cards work, there's a pattern that goes around the edge of it. But you can use can use a webcam with. That's
kind of cool.
You couldn't just put a QR code on it.
Well, it is a form of a QR code. It's hidden though. That's the beauty of them. Like gone are the days where you have to have this like square there. It's kind of baked into the design of the card.
The code is it's incorporated into the border of the card.
Yeah.
But with the PC version, you'll be able to use a webcam, and then I don't know if maybe, I mean, there's a possibility you'll have to just use the app to import your stuff, and you'll have a shared profile across all platforms. So you may have to use your phone or your PC to import and play on your Switch, but you will be able to play the game on your Switch.
And that's exciting because, like, I was a little skeptical when the Switch came out, but it has changed the way I game because it's so much more accessible. You don't have to like
getting a lot of board game support.
Yeah, which I really love.
Seems really weird. Like, it makes me almost want to get one a little bit. Probably still won't, but
so we're seeing more even with like the CCGs. There's definitely the digital avenue to it. We've been playing Chronicles of Crime. This adds to it.
Yeah,
Keyforge has an app. That kind of to it too.
The way that this game handles their app and the cross platform, where there's an incentive to buy the physical stuff, and then in buying the physical stuff, it incentivizes the digital. Like, it's got a really,
it's kind of an interesting unique system,
symbiotic back and forth, encouraging each side is kind of encouraging each other, because an app could easily be the death of a collectible card game if it's handled wrong.
Right.
And similarly, an app could just totally not take off if it's not handled the right way. I actually, like, over the course of about a week, played in a locally run tournament through the app.
Cool.
And in the local Warhammer Champions card game group, there is like a rep from PlayFusion who is going to hand out prizes for playing in a for free digital playing on my phone tournament,
because I know
that's pretty cool.
If anyone wants to get on our Discord channel, ktdata.net/Discord, find me, Ken of the Dead. If you're interested in this game, tag me, start a conversation with me. I will absolutely play with you. We can throw down on some Warhammer.
We actually have a room dedicated. Yeah, we have a room dedicated for online matchmaking. So just throw it in there. Yeah, and, we'll see that.
And we're starting to see Warhammer kind of transition more into other games now. I know they had some IP changes in the last few years. I think there's Monopoly now.
Yeah,
I mean, all I have is Chaos.
I think Games Workshop now is becoming less of, we're just going to make all our stuff and just spread it.
Maybe we could get them to reprint the Horned Rat expansion for Chaos. So I
probably won't do that.
So I won't have to spend
they don't have to
$150 in it.
Just bite the bullet, Russ. Just bite the bullet.
What would be really cool is
it's not really inexpensive.
A collector's edition, like 10th anniversary or however long it's been, 5th anniversary, like set re-release. That would be awesome.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. Russ always, he likes to stay on the latest and greatest. So
he does.
We had a big announcement today.
Yeah.
We had a big announcement today from Fantasy Flight Games. So you want to tell everybody about it?
So just today we were announced that Star Wars Outer Rim is coming out.
That's a new IP. I've never heard of the Star Wars thing. Ever.
And it's a 1 to 4 player game. It's a 1 to 4 player game. We don't know a lot about it. Like I said, it was just announced today, but to me, in reading through it, it kind of seems like a Star Wars sandboxy game, almost in the same avenue as Firefly. You can choose to be a bounty hunter, you can do jobs, and you kind of go around space. You have to deal with different things.
Yeah, you get to choose. You have a
pilot.
Rim, right?
Yeah, you get to choose your pilot. So it's kind of it's exciting as a Star Wars fan and liking sandbox games. And the information provided to us so far, it seems really fun. You have to get to 10 victory points, and how you choose to do that, either by a bounty hunter or doing jobs or carrying freight, those kind of things.
You like making those decisions a lot, right? And
because you don't have to. All of us aren't doing the same things. Almost like Western Legends. Like, I can be an outlaw or I can be the good guy.
Sounds a lot like Merchants and Marauders. I know none of you guys have played that yet, but I've played it several times, and it's very much sounds the same, where you're a pirate and you can attack other people and try to steal their stuff, or you can be the merchant. You basically are a merchant or a marauder.
Yeah. And
so based on the information, the company, the IP, I think it's going to be a pretty solid hit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, our hardcore Star Wars fan isn't here because Zach I swear you put that logo on anything, he'll buy it. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if he has like
we
Star
were
Wars
just at his
branded
house
toilet
last
paper.
week, and yeah, he bought all of it.
Yeah, like
He's bought the Star Wars stuff.
Yep.
And at the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm not into Star Wars. So whenever I hear about like a new Star Wars game, especially if you guys are excited about it, I go,
yeah,
please let the mechanics carry it.
yeah.
Because anytime Star Wars comes up, I just like to tell people that I'm not a Trekkie, because I feel like that perfectly lets people know how enthusiastic I am about both
well, in
those
the discussion,
franchises.
in our discussion on Discord about it today, some people were bothered it was the canon characters because they were
wanted
hoping it was like
more of that expanded universe characters that you don't get
yeah.
to see a lot of.
Players like Zach are going to be worried like, oh, Han Solo wouldn't do this. This is what he would do, instead of like totally changing
And then,
it.
and then there's me who would be like, why does it say Star Wars if they're not going to have Luke Skywalker? Like, why bother? Why not just make it generic sci-fi fantasy world thing? Because if it's going to be Star Wars, you've got to have those canon
because
characters.
the Star Wars logo is guaranteed to sell 50,000 units.
As long as there's Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader in there, because if they're not in it, I'm not going to buy it. Like,
well,
you know, and there's so many people between the guys like Zach who are going to be upset that canon characters are acting out of character.
I mean, they were talking
guys
about art.
Like me who go, what's their names? Like, who's that guy? What movie was he from? You know, and in between those two ends of the spectrum, there's a ton of people who are going to go, yeah, I like Star Wars. Oh, but it doesn't have Luke Skywalker. I'm good. You know? Mm-hmm. So I think that they have to do that with the canon characters.
It's an interesting board because it's an arch. So it'll be interesting to see how the kind of the pickup and delivery
I think it's supposed to emulate the Outer Rim in the world of Star Wars, where like the Jabba's
right, but it reads like the play is a sandbox, but yet with the way the board lays out, it'll be interesting how that'll work out.
Be more of a bowl instead of a box.
Yeah. It'll be like linear, like I'm going to go here instead of.
Mm-hmm. All right, so moving on to games that have been announced and aren't out yet. Jared, he went and put on his investigative hat.
That's right.
And actually talked to the owner or game creator of the next one we're talking about.
Tim Fowers, if you've ever played Burgle Bros, he also made...
The paperback one was
paperback,
that? Yeah,
paperback and hardback are his big games. He made another one called Fugitive, which is sort of a two-player spy versus spy. It's sort of like a car chase. The whole thing is like you're a spy chasing down this bad guy, and so one of you is trying to escape, and the other one's trying to catch him down.
The Fugitive.
Sort of, yeah. But his games all kind of have this really heavy spy, old school spy movie motif to it, and so we got to go over to his headquarters, which is up here in Ogden, Utah, and play tested Sabotage, which is. The Kickstarter is already funded and everything, and they're going to print something like this week or this next week, and then it's going to be released in April, I think was what he said. That's when it's going to ship. But you can go to their website now and pre-order it. And after playing it, I felt like I just had to come on here and praise how fun of a game.
You didn't steal a copy for us?
I didn't. He did give me a copy, though, of the Fog of Love Supernatural expansion.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Right? It's like werewolves and like vampires.
And why isn't that here tonight?
Because I wasn't planning on anyone who has Fog of Love bringing it, honestly. We always get a lot of people.
We have a couple of copies.
It's a two-player game, so it's probably not going to get played in our group a whole lot. But anyway, so he did give me that, which was really cool of him. But
when's that coming out?
I think it's already out.
Is that already out?
I don't know.
I hadn't heard of that one before.
It's not already out. I don't know.
Awesome.
It's at home sitting on my couch right now. So
that's all Jared cares about.
Yeah. But anyway, so Sabotage, the game, is actually really fun. It's a deduction game, and it's sort of like Sonar, 2 versus 2, and you've got a screen between you, and one of you is playing spies who are trying to hack the villains' like doomsday devices. They're trying to stop them from launching their doomsday devices, and the villains are trying to kill the spies before they're able to do it. And so what happens is you've got this screen between you, and then you have a grid, which is a 4x4 grid with just letters designating the different rooms. And he said that one side of the board is going to have names for all of them, and the other side is just going to have the letters if you're more of a Spartan type person, and that's what you like. But it's so much fun. So the spies, so what happens is the villains have 4 dice and they roll them, and based on what you roll, you're able to take certain actions as both the villains and the spies. But whatever the villains roll, the spies have to change their dice to that, and they have to use the same dice pool. And it's just 6-sided dice. So, for instance, one of the things that the villains can do is they can use their motion sensors to try to figure out where inside the base the spies are hiding. And so they have to like guess like a sector of the base or a row or a column. And if there's any spies in there, they have to tell them how many are in there. You can just use movement actions. You can use your taser to try to kill them. And then there was one other action that I can't remember what
spies having tasers.
No, those are the villains. The villains are trying to catch the spies. And then the spies, they have a hack action. They have a movement action. And the thing about the spies is every time they move, they have to tell you where, like what column, what row, or what sector of the base they are in now. And then
so where they're leaving,
where they're going to, where they are after the movement action. So you kind of like have these little tokens to track where you know they are, because like when they drop in, they'll be like, I'm in the top half of the base. And so you put these tokens on all these spaces to track them. And then when they move, they say like column D. And so you look at the column with the D's in it, and then you take all the tokens off the other ones. You're like, okay, they got to be in these 4 rooms. And the really fun thing was, so you have the screen between you. You're sitting there communicating with your partner, trying to figure out where they're at, or the spies are trying to figure out how best to avoid them. You can't just talk openly about it. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I totally think they're in C. Let's go tase C this turn, because they'll know what you're planning on doing.
And
so you have to sit there and like have a quiet conversation using body language with them, sort of like the mind. And you're trying to coordinate that, and you're trying to do the deduction game and decide who's going to go in what order. And then the spies are doing the same thing on the other side. They're like, okay, how do we get out of here?
I'm not going to lie. This started off sounding, I was like going, wow, this sounds like Battleship Evolved, but it sounds like it's way beyond that.
Okay,
that sounds really cool.
So have you played Sonar, or have you seen us play Sonar? So basically all that is
why would I see you play a game?
Well, we played it here.
Yeah.
And a couple of you guys were watching, and I don't remember who was here.
Yeah, no.
But in that one, you've got 2 people, and one person is moving your submarine, and the other person is trying to figure out where the other person is. So every time you move, you have to tell them where you move to, and you just use the little map to deduce where they're at, and whoever sinks the other submarine first wins. This is like that on steroids.
Right. Yeah.
So it comes out in April?
Yeah, it comes out in April.
Yeah,
if you like deduction games,
which you don't like a lot of deduction games,
I like
right?
deduction games. It's social deduction games that I'm not a huge fan of, but if you like social deduction games, this game kind of has some of that for you too.
But not too much for you to like not like it, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're trying to like get into the head of the other person and be like, what would they do in this situation? But at the same time, you've got a grid here, and you can tell, you know, like, at least I know they're in these 4 spaces. And then the thing is, as the game goes on, as the game progresses, you can get gadgets. So like the villains get all these cool weapons, and the spies get all these cool gadgets that let them do special actions. And so you'll be sitting there and you're like, okay, I totally know he's going to hack that doomsday device. I'm going to go and tase him. And then you do, and it's like, no, I wasn't there. Well, there's a spy thing that lets them like hack these things remotely through a wall. And so
that's pretty cool.
They're like trying to dodge you the whole time. And what ended up happening in our game was me and my buddy Kyle. We were playing against our buddy Ben and one of the co-creators. We ended up getting a device. I ended up getting a device where when I used it, the spies had to tell me exactly where they were. And my buddy Kyle had a rocket launcher. So I would go first and be like, where are they? And he would use the rocket launcher to blow up a huge chunk of the map. And it sounds unbalanced when I say that, but it's not, because they were so close to beating us, and we blew them up right before they ended up disabling all of our doomsday devices.
Does it just seem like Jared to bring a rocket launcher to like a hammer?
So how long was the play?
So the play was, we actually played 2 games. So we played an intro game, which didn't have all the fancy gadgets. It was just, kind of short learning game. And that one took probably 25 minutes, maybe something like that. And then the longer game took probably 50 minutes.
Yeah, the box. Yeah, the
good playtime.
Yeah, the playtime listed as 60 to 90 minutes on there. And if you guys are interested in finding that game, you go to fowers.games. And that'll take you. That's FOWER.GAMES.
And he also has another game up for pre-order called Getaway Driver.
S.
He also has another game up for pre-order that's called Getaway Driver. That one's shipping right now, I believe, to Kickstarter backers, and that one's supposed to be incredible as well. I haven't played that one, so I can't tell you much about it. But I love the artwork in his game. So even if you like that artwork style,
yeah, because he has that kind of like that classic, spy versus spy kind of.
Have you seen The Incredibles 2? Like The Incredibles 1 kind of had it, but The Incredibles 2 really had that sort of like noir 50s art style thing. That's the art style for these games. So it's really cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty sweet. So we also want to hear from you guys. If you guys want us to feature any of these games as one of our featured game videos, let us know. Leave a comment below or send us an email. The playthrough at ktdata.net or facebook.com/playthrough, or join our Discord channel, ktdata.net/Discord. There's a suggestion box channel. You can do that. And at the very least, you get to hang out with all these crazy nut jobs.
Yeah, it's a pretty active group.
Yeah.
And then before we go to our last one, the project I was going to talk about, but I'm going to save for later, is called The Game Designers. If you want to know more about that, join us on the Kickcast at kickcast.net, and that will actually end up being a featured project there. But there was
promotion. Look at you
we stepped up our game.
So there was an interesting article that Russ found that I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about. So Stonemaier Games, he actually wrote an article about his experiment of doing 6 months of doing MAP prices, which is minimum advertised price policy. A lot of game publishers actually do this. Asmodee is probably the biggest one that people talk about, is that they're like, hey, you only can list your game within this price range or within this percentage range of our suggested retail price. That's why most of the times when you go to game stores and stuff, you'll notice the prices of the games are pretty similar between each other because of that policy. Because if you don't follow that policy, they'll just tell their distributor,
they'll stop sending you games.
Yeah, stop sending the store games for not following our policy.
I've noticed like a very hard one of those on another Warhammer related game that I've been interested in. Every single warband, anywhere that I look, it's either the $30 MSRP or it's $25.50. It's one of those two prices. I've never seen
exactly $25.50 in other places.
Other price. It is either like $29.99 or is $25.50. So that is a perfect example of the the MAPP thing, and that they have that enacted.
Yeah, so in this article, he kind of describes his whole 6 months experience on it, because his main reason for doing this is because the way that Amazon's algorithm works is to actually drive down the price, so they're the lowest price
within their market.
Yeah, within their marketplace. So you'll want to buy from Amazon instead of a third party.
If you're interested in business, this is an interesting article.
So but he said, he was discussing about it. What it turned out though, like it used to be, he would check, maybe once a week, trying to see if anybody was breaking the rules, and he'd find somebody, report them, and then it turned into he would check almost every single day. And
he was finding people every day.
Yeah, and that was almost his kind of full-time job instead of making games and running a business.
And unfortunately, like in doing that, he was finding a bunch of like fly-by-night small operations that are, they would just as easily or just as quickly as he would shut them down from the distributors, they'd change their name and get on the distributor list under something else.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it's just, and it kind of had an interesting tie-in to another story that I've seen recently where Amazon has finally, for the first time ever, admitted that they have a counterfeit problem.
Which with board games is a lot harder to pick out, because
sometimes you end up getting counterfeit board games, and so
have you not heard of that?
Bootleg board games?
Yeah.
Betrayal had that issue.
So people will get a game and say it's a game that has like 2 millimeter cardboard chits or whatever. You'll get it and it'll be like poster board stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you would never know if you got a bootleg copy of Betrayal.
No, I thought I did. But
They
no,
did?
it wasn't.
No.
Yeah,
I'm like, you can't get much worse than those components, can you?
But between that and this article, it's like, okay, so Amazon is aware that they have a counterfeiting problem with, and it goes with the Amazon article. I saw it pop up on different board game centric things, but they weren't just talking about that. You know?
Right.
I mean,
Sure.
I'm sure they've got counterfeit Rolexes and
Yeah,
counterfeit
everything.
handbags,
Bath towels,
and stuff like
scented
that.
candles.
Yeah. So between that, they've got this problem with counterfeits, which does bleed into board games. And also, they've got this algorithm and web of sellers that makes it impossible for a board game publisher to enforce their own pricing. Amazon it's a big, crazy place.
Yeah. yeah, it's a super crazy place. So, but eventually, within the 6 months, he ended up just not doing it anymore because it became too much of a hassle for him.
Well, that's because the first thing that I noticed in the article is Stonemaier is still a one-man operation.
What's wrong with that, man?
That seems crazy to me. Now, understand that there's other aspects to the business that he's not, like he's hiring out and stuff, but I mean, he's got 4 of the biggest games out there. It is
kind of crazy when you think about board game companies, because sometimes like we think they're just these big, like sometimes they're these big entities, and they've got all these employees who are doing all this stuff. And so many of them are like 1 or 2 people working out of their garage, and they have super popular games.
Yeah, we're not talking about like just a small game company on the market right now. I mean, you're looking at Scythe, Viticulture, Wingspan coming out. Like those are some of the biggest titles out there. You would think that would be a reasonably large company.
A little bit of an idea about probably how small profit margins are in board gaming, in the board gaming industry. They can't be very
circles
big.
Right back to him chasing down the MAPP for the Amazon Marketplace.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys, how do you guys feel about map pricing? Like, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Because at the end of his article, he says, I don't know if I can recommend it, but I also don't know if I can not recommend doing map pricing.
I'm not a business person, so I am probably going to be sounding a little bit stupid when I say this, but
don't worry, we love it when you do that.
He sells the games at a price, right? Like he gets paid for them when he sells them to distributors. Why does he care if they're going for?
Because what happens is if it's all going down, and he explains this a little bit in the article, it's a trickle down effect, right? If he's selling them, but then people are undercutting him, then the brick and mortar stores are going to suffer, which in turn is going to suffer with the gaming hobby. Kind of go spiral down to where
the idea is
brick and mortar stores to sell it. It's going to be undercut. Then the people on Amazon are going to.
I do understand that argument, but
there's also
cannot think of I haven't been in a brick and mortar store for 2 months, and before that was probably another 2 months.
There's also like the kind of, I'll call it the Walmart problem of people are going to expect that. Okay, so he wants to sell his game for $30. So he sells it to his distributor for 10. His distributor sells it to the the retailer for 20. The retailer sells it to you for 30. When the retailer starts selling it for 20, then the distributor is going to have a harder time selling it for 20. So they're going to sell it at 15, and he's going to have a hard time selling it to the distributor at 10 because everyone needs to make their profit. So if the demand at the end where the people are actually buying it, where the money starts working its way back up the chain to him, if that gets too low, then he's not going to make a profit. And no one between him, the margins just get tighter and tighter.
Yeah, and then the more the
demand just will fall away, and if it's basically, well, if you want to be able to sell my game, you have to pay me this. They're going to go, well, I can't make that off of it. I won't sell your game.
Yeah.
And then the game just goes away.
Yeah. There's also the problem too with the supply chain as these stores are like, well, if their competitors are selling it too low, I have to sell it too low. So it's at a loss to me. So that means that the next game that they come out with, they'll be less inclined to order as many copies because I can't compete with with Amazon and its algorithm that keeps driving the price down, because that's the Amazon strength is it people, there's not some guy just changing the price automatically. It's a program that constantly looks
I get that.
at other places, so it's always driving it down, which means more people will buy there and less at these other stores, which they can't move their product. And eventually it goes back to Stonemaier, where like, well, I want to make this game, but none of the distributors, none of the stores want to carry my product. So where am I going to sell this to?
Well, we see some of that with hot games when they come out. It's hard to find it because of distributors, right? I'm personally worried about being able to get Wingspan when it comes out because everybody already has it. And
when a new game ends up being really hot, it's hard. It's really hard to predict that hotness. So
Fireball
also
Island
the problem of,
and we saw that with Root, right?
Yeah,
Root was hard to find.
There's also the problem of like how big is your print run going to be, and then they have to recoup their money for their print run, and they need to make more money so that there could be another print run, especially if it's going to be really hot, and then you've got to probably be able to pay even more to expedite that so you can stay on the hype. Like there's so many.
And we're seeing the growth in
cogs.
Kickstarter with board games. The business side of the board games is very interesting to me because you have the Kickstarters, which is increasing. There seems to be a higher threshold of price for Kickstarter. Like it seems to be most games now are between $80 and $100. Then you get the add-ons that are more, plus the time, like the new Peterson game. That's April 2020. Is that right? When it ships, or November?
Matter. It's going to be amazing.
It is going to be amazing. It is going to be amazing.
It doesn't matter. You just hit back and then wait. And, Well, you don't even wait. You just forget about it. And then you
get a shipping crate delivered to your house.
And it's not just the Kickstarter stuff.
Different factions.
It's not just the Kickstarter stuff. We see also with distributors changing. Like CMON used to be only one distributor, and they've added to it now, which... That side of it has always been weird to me because the distributors, at least locally, control everything. And it seems like the publishers or the stores don't hold a lot of power, which is kind of annoying.
Well, have you seen how mob-like the distributors are now, too?
That's what I mean.
Because I've actually talked to a lot of publishers and stuff. And did you know a lot of these distributors like try to get publishers to sell their games on consignment? As in, you don't get any money, you ship them the games. They sell the games if they don't sell it for whatever price they want, and then you get whatever that is back. And the whole mentality right now in the board game industry, which it seems so backwards, is that you get a game out, it's hot for the first 3 months. If you don't sell it in all your quantities in 3 months, your game's a failure. Move on to your next game.
It's so
and push
wild.
It. That's so nuts.
That goes for everything, though. I mean, movies win or lose on their opening weekend.
Well, like, I mean, some of the board games, I mean, you're considered old after... I mean, Camel Up just got a reprint. It was 2014. I noticed it a lot with
that is crazy.
With The Godfather because TJ Maxx had it for $20, as low as $9 I've seen, which to me for that game is crazy.
Yeah,
because people are like the game must be terrible. No, the game's great.
I played the game. I on it like it was fine. I didn't love it, but when I saw it for $20, I was like, well, it's worth 20. Like, I'll take it for 20. I'll end up playing it for sure. Definitely. I wouldn't have paid the like 80 or 90, whatever the MSRP was. I didn't like it that much, but for 20, it's a steal.
Yeah, that's where that mentality of a Kickstarter is so different right now in the board game world, is because you don't have to deal with those distributors right now. And it's a lot of these companies are using it more for the long-term game. They're like, sure, this game's going to be popular and raise this much money, but we're also getting a community that's going to follow us. Like CMON is probably one of the biggest communities where they can throw something up. I
really wish they'd just do it like the claustrophobia one.
That
was such a like.
But that's why we were having
against the spirit of Kickstarter.
Yeah. Well, that's why we were having this discussion about you're like, who cares if they do updates and stuff. It's if you're going to play the long game, you gotta make a good relationship with your customer because you're selling directly to them, and
part of it is building that
community, being able so they'll come back.
Ktdata.net/Discord.
It's definitely about with new games. It's definitely about getting on the hype train, which is really fascinating. Like social media, if you can get a game popular on social media, people will want it even if they don't know a lot about it.
Yeah, like for Wingspan, it's not even out yet, but everybody's like,
apparently everybody has it
for this.
Apparently everybody has it already. But So
You don't have it yet.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's not even my type of game, but 150 different birds, that means it's never going to repeat. Just get stuff.
It's cool.
Yeah. Russ, so we want to hear from you guys at home. Are you excited for any of these games we talked about? What do you guys feel about MAPP? Let us know.
I hope that people aren't just bored to tears by talking business.
I always find it fascinating. So let us
and read that article on Stonemaier Games.
It is really it's a little bit of a long read, but it has a lot of kind of
I
nuggets
found
of
it
knowledge.
really engaging, and the way that he writes is also it made it for an easy read for how dense the information was.
Well, it made his company seem more personable, if that makes sense. Like,
but that's part of building your
like
community.
I was connected to what he was trying to do.
There's a
with
reason
the
that
games.
Jamie Stigmeyer has the position that he does in the overall hobby and community of board gaming.
Yeah, so let us know by leaving a comment below or shooting us an email. Kick the playthrough. I almost said the wrong show. The playthrough at ktdata.net.
Or talking to us directly on Discord.
Yeah, ktdata.net/Discord. We're hoping, and I hope you guys listening at home will help us get to our goal of 50 users on this server, not counting the producers here because that would be cheating. But if we get it to 50, I'm going to do a random giveaway and you may get some awesome stuff from us too. Of course, make sure you like and subscribe to the video. If you guys are listening to audio, there's a video version of this so you can see us sitting around the table talking. And we haven't decided our game that we'll feature next time on the playthrough, but you can
If anyone has ideas.
Yeah. You can bet it's going to be awesome. So until next time, guys, thank you for joining us on the playthrough.
Bye.